All right, you guys can all hear me. I open the back of the room. You guys can hear? Okay. So this is the joint meeting of the boards, and the reason why we called the Stark County Commission, Stark County Park Board, the Fair Association, Rough Rider Commission, and the 4-H groups together was just to determine whether the public is actually wanting a building. We call it a multi-function event plex. Get rid of the arena portion of it at the fairgrounds. And so we've asked everybody to come and give their input to be able to talk about what that means. The multi-function fairgrounds is really defined as a single property or buildings that can be used for more than one purpose. And obviously to serve many people, used for more than just livestock events. Although we love to have our livestock events there as well, so we definitely are going to have those. We currently use the entire property. This year, just in leveling the hill from 4 years ago, this year we've got our first event that wants to rent the hill. And that is our polo cross. If you've never heard of that, you'll have to watch for some more information on that. It's a combination of lacrosse and polo off of horses, and so it takes quite a bit of an area to use. We currently use the parking lots. We rent out the parking lot areas. We rent out stock pens. We do quite a bit out at the fairgrounds every single weekend. And we don't limit the type of event that we can have. We have motorsports type of events with our rodeo and livestock events as well. And no limits on who can use it. So this building itself and also the fairgrounds in its entirety is public access during non-event times 24/7, 365. So that's one of the most important things that we can stress about this building. So what brings us here today is basically just to answer the question of what does the public want? The multifunction eventplex building, it's an indoor building. We'll talk more about it. Would your groups use it? And that's one of the reasons why we asked the specific groups and additional groups to be here to give us some ideas and share with our boards of whether you would use the facility. And then anybody else that happened to come online, people come from all over the United States to actually use our facility. So we want to hear from you, and we'll be hearing from you online a little bit later. Some of the obstacles that we're encountering is the term arena. And I talked about that before, changing the name to, instead of calling it an indoor arena, because the non-livestock people, it confuses them because they do think of an arena as simply a rodeo arena where we have livestock events, ropings and barrel races and PRCA and rodeos. And so we just kind of drop that, and you'll tend to hear me call it an arena just because we've always done that. Confusion with other building initiatives. So there's other buildings that are up and around in the region that are going up, and some of those are confused with our building. And some of the tax implications that I've heard has that we're going to raise taxes, and that's not true. Our Stark County has been very good about not raising taxes to do things that we need. This building, in fact, that we're in right now was not something that was raised taxes to be in, and this one will not as well. And there is a misconception out there that we have no events at the fairgrounds, and I'm not quite sure if you know the events that go on at the fairgrounds. We're booked from really May 1st all the way through the end of September with events every single weekend, and then multiple events during the week as well. So there is a misconception that there isn't that. I don't know if that's because the old fairgrounds used to be in the middle of town at the DSU indoor arena area. And so maybe they don't see that it's there because there still is some knowledge that they're not out doing anything there. And so maybe that's what it is. They don't know that the building is actually here. So this building we're looking at is a multifunction eventplex. It's 200 feet wide, 400 feet long, with an entry addition that's 140 feet wide by 50 feet. And so that can be completely enclosed in one big square without the entrance. That's just something we wanted to give a visual to our boards to be able to see what it looks like and just see and envision what it could be.
It's not in massive. Okay, please.
That's right, I'll keep
There it goes.
Thank you. So this building that we passed the last time, so we've got two estimates. One was for $5.1 million. And this one here was for 4.850. So, 4,850,000. So this includes our building materials and construction labor to put it up. The concrete foundation wall with footings, and then it does just have dirt floors in it for now. We figured we could phase in concrete where we needed it once we figured out a layout. And as we raise funds for it, it does include all of the doors that were quoted in there. Insulation throughout on the walls and the ceiling with a white liner panel on the interior to make it nice and bright and keep it clean. What's not included in that cost is the plumbing, and we really don't know what that would be, based on not knowing what we would use the facility for, what type of bathrooms, that sort of thing that we would need. The heating estimate is unknown at this point. We have them working on an estimate so that we will know that, probably next week, I would guess. We just had to figure out what kind of heaters needed to be in, and then they needed to do their calculations on cost and what it would cost to heat it, and so all of that would be known. The electrical was estimated at 420,000, and that included electrical for offices, restrooms, concession area, and the entire arena itself. So that's the estimate on that one. The arena interior, if we should go with a completely new interior, was estimated at 161,500, and that includes 6 bucking chutes and all the lead up lanes and holding pins. Now, we figure we probably aren't going to need that. We would reuse the arena that is at the north right now, just to reuse those. Those panels are perfectly good. We would reuse those inside. So that may be a cost savings for us. We also believe that we could use our existing stock pins and be able to provide lead up lanes to those. So that may not be something that we want to do. And then this is just a potential layout. And the reason why we did this potential layout, just a very crude drawing of what it could be inside, just so that people could start visualizing how they would use it. Keep in mind that we would need to have stakeholder meetings, people that use the facility, people that intend to use the facility, so that if we're planning the layout, it has to work for everybody. This is your building. This is not just one person's or one entity's building. So we want to make sure that it works for the archery people. If they need something specific, I don't know, because I don't shoot archery. So we want to make sure that everything is laid out properly in a very functional manner, so that we can change the setups very easily and make it very easy for you guys to be able to come in and do what you want to do in your arena. And then what type of events are we anticipating there? Livestock and non-livestock, obviously. So livestock 4-H achievement days that are out in the arena right now, pro rodeos, the PRCA rodeos, bull riding, the PBR, and some of our amateur bull riding, ropings. Right now we do the Wrangler roping. Barrel racing, we do several barrel racings, big ones through the year. Petting zoos, we have right now a petting zoo with our kids fair. And so we plan on having some more of those types of contacts with the city kids, basically, to get them out and get them involved. And then the equine riding and lessons, there's a big need for people that want to ride their horses and give kids lessons, and actually adults too. I get called all the time for people that want riding lessons. And then mounted shooters, they are at our arena now, and they would like to do even some winter and some cutting. That's one of our new events this year, is the cuttings. And then the polo cross that I talked about before. Non-livestock would be archery, go-kart races. We've got those intending to come, concerts potentially in there. Right now with the concerts, it's really difficult because they pay a big rain insurance. And so that's a huge cost to them, where maybe we could be able to set it up to where they could utilize it as well for inside and be able to plan for that. Birthday parties, I've already got people calling wanting to schedule birthday parties and pony rides and potentially some weddings. I've been over in Montana at a few indoor arena weddings, and some people want that, so that would be a potential. And then the kids fair as well. And then photography classes, that was one of the questions I got, is if somebody could hold that and teach people how to shoot indoor photography. I guess harder than you think. Judges and timers clinics, they always need a place where they can go and learn and get certified for the upcoming events. And then antique and gun shows, we've got one of each that want to come here as well. And then reunions, and right now we have some very unique reunions coming. One of them being a biker reunion. So our fairgrounds is very set up to do very unique items. So some of the programs and special events that could potentially come is the horse club. The Fair Association has talked about that since I came in 2018. Fundraiser events, we could host those and host those all through the year. Therapeutic riding, I've got a lady that wants to come and utilize the arena for therapeutic riding. And then obviously some riding lessons from some other individuals. Community potlucks, that's one to bring our community together, and also the dances, and possibly a circus. They're interested in coming as well. And I don't know if they go on the livestock side or not. Outdoor activities using the indoor, basically to use it as a warming, or the snow trucks. They want to come and put on, basically what they do is they walk around and explore in the winter, and get kids of a certain age to come and check out the outdoors during winter time, instead of sitting on their phones all winter. You know how that is. And then some snow tubers want to come and maybe do that and utilize the arena just as a base for what they're doing. I've had a request, which is very unique, is camping, setting up a camp for kids to come and camp in the arena. So I'm not sure quite how that would look, but I was very excited to hear that they wanted to maybe come and try that. And then playground. A lot of the people want to have an area inside so that we can have a playground that they could go to in the winter time. The Arnie Vinnick Memorial Arena, that's our outdoor arena. Like I said, it books solid from May 1 to October 1, only 3 weekends left as of today for 2024. And the facility has consistent annual events. So everybody that is scheduling now, it's very rare if they give up their weekends. Some of them change weekends, but they're still coming back. And a lot of them are from quite far away that come here to do some events. And then we have our locals as well. And so I actually laid across on some of these tables, but this is where you can find a link to our Stark County Fair website, just to see the events that are going on out there fairgrounds. And you can look under the Arnie Vinnick Memorial Arena tab on that. Implementing the master plan phases. This was a master plan that was accepted by the park board in 2019. And we were moving forward with the building on the hill until the costs got so outrageous that we just put it on hold for now. And just off recommendation, that board had rescinded the motion to move forward with that, and instead try to do this arena here. Both of them will fill and be utilized, I have no doubt. But that one on the hill is basically a 30-year plan, because we don't know what they're going to need in our community in not 30 years. Right ahead of that, to the south, is that little blue square. That's the existing restroom right now, just so that you can see where it's at in relation to that. It's right behind the grandstands. And then the arena itself is the green piece, and it's not to scale, obviously, but you can get the gist of where it would go, in adjacent to the outdoor building, or the outdoor arena. And the master plan phases, so the first phase was leveling the hill. So when I came on board in 2018, they did not have a master plan. So I made them implement the master plan so that we knew where we were going and not just plopping down buildings and trees where they maybe weren't needed. So we just basically documented some of the vision that they've always had, and then just kind of allocated the area where it needed to be. So we asked the contractors to come and do a community project for us and level the hill, and these are the people that contributed to leveling that hill. Our 4 big dirt contractors did a really good job of getting everything leveled for us and put back in place. And, you know, just the engineering part of it and the fuel, moving of the lines that were across that hill was a big undertaking. So they finished that in April of 2020. And then we moved on here to the phase 2, which is the restrooms at the outdoor arena. So the restrooms, that's what they look like as of yesterday. They were just finishing the front side of the siding. And like I said, those are right behind the covered grandstands at the outdoor. So those will be a really nice addition. So people that hated using the porta potties will love coming to the arena this time, and they should be opened up as soon as the thaw is here and they can hook up the water lines and do all the testing. They're just on the interior right now, doing some finishing of that. So I anticipate that come the end of April, we will be live, ready to go. So that was a big one. And then phase 3 is intended to be this multifunction event plex, the indoor. So that one is the one that we're working on right now. And then the next phases that we have on our master plan, which is obviously being revised a little bit, is phase 4 is the indoor shooting and archery range. And then phase 5 is the connectivity of the trails. So we have a trail that goes around our property.
Not a date yet. On the call yesterday, Jake suggested,
You're online, will you please mute yourself?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So the black line around there is actually the trail that exists or will exist around ours in the master plan. And then there's some discussion with Dickinson Parks and Recs on how in the future we can connect that to their trails. So there will be some discussions and some future planning with that as well.
Do you have a preference, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Yeah. Yeah.
Can you please mute your,
Or 5 or
please mute your line?
For my site,
You can do it.
Stay on, let me double check, make sure they're all muted. I think you're good now. I
Okay,
don't think
thank
we'll
you.
have that interruption again.
That's all right. The estimated annual building expenses that I presented at the last park board meeting was the heating. I budgeted 30,000. What I did was I compared 10 like facilities, so average sizes, average height, can't get exact, but went through and just documented those, checked with their either their managers and their auditors to pull their budget numbers to see what they're actually spending and what they allocated for that. And the average of those 10 facilities was 12,000 a year for heating, and the average temperature was 40 to 45 degrees. And that's basically keeping the ground thawed for riding. And most of the ones that I was contacting didn't do a lot of other types of events, spectator events. Obviously, you're gonna wanna keep it a little warmer, but on the livestock events, 40 to 45 is the average. So I budgeted 30,000 just to be safe. So whether that's a realistic number, it would likely be a lot less just because the insulation types and ages of the buildings. Some of them didn't have their walls insulated, just the ceilings insulated. So there was a lot of variables in that. And maintenance, I budgeted $10,000 simply because it's a new facility. And I know that there was some question on that number, but you shouldn't have to put a ton of money into maintenance on a new facility. And that's why that number is 10,000. We currently work with that on the outdoor facility, and I think it's probably a little more, harder to keep an outdoor facility subject to all the weather, to be maintained that way. And the batteries one day.
Battery right here. Size. Where should you be?
Right there.
Right there?
Yep. So the estimated annual building income, one of the questions when I gave that one, I had anticipated it of being able to realistically make about $39,000 a year at the minimum. One of those items in there was the sponsorship banners for $100,000, 100 banners at $1,000 each. And I know, there was some question on, their people wanting to pay $250 for their banners. But there's actually people out here that I've already spoken to that want banners in specific places that are willing to pay $1,000 a year to help support the arena, the public arena. And then obviously the shoot banners are higher priced most places for one single event. They're usually doing a part that is, that's $3,000 for one rodeo. So it's not out of line in a big picture of things. And then obviously the budgeted maintenance on there. So I'm gonna just ask you guys while he changes the batteries, if anybody has any questions in the room, board members, anybody? Let's see if this works. Yep. If not, that's really all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Stark County Fair Association and comment. You know, Mike here, step up here.
Good morning. I am Melissa Krusch, a member of the Fair Board, and I'd like to start out by thanking you all for being here, lending your time, consideration, and collaborative efforts to this meeting. As we evaluate and aim to shape the future of Stark County, I believe it's equally as important to honor the history and the work of our predecessors, which led us where we are today. The Stark County Fair Association was originally started in the year 2000 with the goal of building a state-of-the-art facility and hosting our full county fair as its mission. While unofficial groups met for years prior to formalization with the state of North Dakota, that process in the early 2000s is what kickstarted where we are today. Many dedicated community leaders and volunteers have served this board over the decades in a range of capacities and through cross-board participation have all helped to aid a collaborative effort involving Rough Rider Commission, 4-H Council, Southwest Speedway, the Family Fun Day, DSU Arts events, all of which have shaped and become the framework for the larger 4th of July celebrations we all enjoy annually. In 2007, the Park Board approved a parcel of land for the Fair Board use. In 2008, public input meetings were held in Belfield, Dickinson, and Richardson. Preliminary site plans were developed, and the dream began to take shape. The County Commission and Park Board voted to approve funding, and a project manager was hired in 2009. Throughout early 2009, positive steps forward in the process were taken. Feasibility studies were done, statistical data gathered, a groundbreaking ceremony was held, and a letter of support was issued from the County Commission. All positive steps forward. By the fall of 2009, the Park Board reported that there were no funds to commit in order to allow the Fair Association the ability to apply for federal programs and grants. In April of 2010, the County Commission issued a letter declaring that the Fair Association was no longer in first-line position for consideration of its funding. Shortly after, the city of Dickinson withdrew the funding that they had committed to the project, and our board hemorrhaged volunteers due to frustrations and lack of progress. In early 2012, the idea of a land swap began, drove the fairgrounds process once again, with multiple new locations for the fairgrounds having been evaluated, and the subsequent sale of the 58 acres we held to a developer closed in July of 2013. With the addition of those funds, the major stakeholders of this process at the time, the Fair Association, the Park Board, the County Commission, DSU Heritage Foundation, Dickinson State University, the 4-H Council, and Rough Rider Commission began to negotiate a memorandum of understanding to work cooperatively with the goal of this development. Each stakeholder had responsibilities. The park board, through proceeds of a land sale and state's addition, was to secure land from the Meyer family, and the fair board's funds from their real estate transaction went to erect the facilities above ground as we know them today. The memorandum of understanding was executed with the attention of each party coming together to combine their time, funding, assets, personnel, in-kind contributions, and expertise in order to develop a business plan for the design, construction of the Stark County Fairgrounds, arenas, event centers, facilities, what they collectively refer to as the project. Several meetings were held, other facilities out of state were toured, and significant time and funds were expended on new plans and feasibility studies. The memorandum of understanding expired after its one-year trial period and was not renewed or renegotiated. The park board's purchase of the current parcel was complete, and we launched the facility we know and use today into action. The Fair Association's funds were used to research, plan, and develop the structures above ground that were originally designated as phase 1 of the project in the memorandum of understanding. Our new facility was ready for its first event in 2017. As with any master plan, the Fair Association's plan is a living, breathing document ripe for evaluation as we perfect the right next step for Stark County. We currently have a board full of enthusiasm and passion for the next phases of this project. Our current volunteer board members have financial savvy, agricultural industry ties, a passion for 4-H and livestock showing, award-winning equine industry credentials, operational experience in the management of nonprofit entities and fundraising. We have legal professionals, years of institutional knowledge of the Fair Board, a depth of knowledge of county processes and history, dedication to continual improvement and growth of our hosted events, and most importantly, we have a deep-seated desire to leave Stark County better than we found it. We operate with the clear understanding that the decisions and impact we make today aren't going to benefit us as individuals, but it will benefit Stark County residents and future generations, most of whom we will never even meet. We are ready, willing, eager, and able to step up to the plate for the residents of Stark County. We have contacts and networks to utilize. We have the ability to fundraise towards this project. We cannot, however, in good conscience or with any likelihood of success, move forward without the wholehearted support and commitment from the Stark County Commission and Park Board. Thank you for your time and consideration. The Fair Association appreciates your continued dedication and stewardship.
Favorite comment. Dustin Elkin, my comment.
Morning, everybody. I'm Dustin Elkins, Chairman of the Stark County Fair Association. I'd like to, first of all, thank the Commission and Park Board for calling this meeting, just to kind of get everybody gathered together and, you know, give our input on this. This is a project that's been coming for a long time. You know, I've been on the Stark County Fair Association since 2017, but I think this project's probably been going since I was kicking slots out of the cradle, really. I mean, 38 years, I think we've been, somebody in some capacity has been trying to develop a building for, you know, our fairgrounds, and that's obviously moved properties, but I think it's something that's been coming for a long time, and we're finally, you know, to the point where we either need to, you know, we really need to commit to it and get after it. As Lisa and Melissa both presented, you know, this master planning has been a moving target really the last few years. You know, after the hill got leveled, you know, we had a $20 million estimate or bid on that building, and that, you know, seemed fairly doable. Well, then we went through COVID, that changed to 40 million. And we all decided, well, that's probably not real fiscally responsible anymore for the citizens of the county. So, you know, now we're looking at a plan here that's, I mean, you know, 4.8 for the shell, we might be 5.5 by the time we get it usable, but it's definitely, you know, still a moving target, I guess. So, and I think, you know, if we can get some commitment to move forward with everybody, we're, like Lisa said, we're gonna need to have a lot of stakeholder meetings and really make sure that this building is not gonna be a one-trick pony. We don't need it as just an arena. We need it to work for multiple groups so that we can keep it operating, you know, year round or through those winter months and get the most use out of it we can for the taxpayers. And, you know, I think back in 2017, when I started on the Fair Association, I think there was maybe 3 events out at the fairgrounds. There's the rodeo, the derby, and the concert. That was it. And then once, you know, Lisa came on and the Fair Association got more involved, I mean, now just around the, you know, Rough Rider Days of the 4th of July, currently there's the Youth Rodeo, the Carnival, the Demolition Derby, Kids Fair, Achievement Days, for the 4-H PRTA Rodeo. We've got plans for a ranch rodeo this year and the concert have all developed. And I think trying to keep that, you know, get a facility like this so we can keep more events out there at the same time. You know, Achievement Days right now for the livestock portion of it, we're only out there for 1 day. We come in, we go out, you know, we park under the tent. I think if we could get a facility out there, you know, maybe those animals could be there for 2 or 3 more days and there'd be more community outreach and, you know, more people connecting with agriculture. I think by doing that, so. I think another, you know, important thing is, you know, the facility is open year round right now. If you want to go ride a horse today, you could do it. I think that'd be very fun, but you could sure do it. And I guess I foresee if we can get a facility going out there, you know, we could have electronic passes to get in the door, security cameras, anybody could come ride anytime they want. And I feel that would draw people not just from our community, but I think we're gonna pull people from Bismarck. In the east, because they really don't have access to a lot of facilities over there, so they'd be able to come over, you know, use our facility. While they're here, they're gonna fill fuel, they're gonna buy meals, they're gonna spend some money in our community. But, I guess that's kind of all I've got for my notes. I think Lisa and Melissa covered quite a bit of it already, so I'm excited to stand for any questions as well, if anybody has any.
Questions? Well, public meeting or public, but at the end, too.
Good, thank you.
The presentation, that's the ones that know you're the 4-H or the X4-H, from 4-H, or making comments.
Find you now. Slide back there.
Yes, well, we introduced coffee from back to the mom, juice meetings,
Okay,
Ask on Zoom, can they, what are they seeing on Zoom?
Are you seeing a 4-H Stark County presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, I will get started here. So, you all passed this photo actually when you came in today, but here is kind of our roots of our 4-H program or showing for their achievement days. So we'll see if my clicker, can you click me? You're gonna have to do it on there. Okay, so 4-H, many of you might be unfamiliar with what 4-H is. So 4-H is a youth activity. It is for 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds. It's throughout our entire state and larger than that actually. And it's through, in our county, the NDSU Extension Service. It focuses on youth development activities and education. And the 4-H motto focuses on head to clearer thinking, heart to greater loyalty, hands to larger service, and health to better living. Next slide. So I'm Bridget Bullinger. I'm currently the Stark-Billings County 4-H Council President. Our family are cattle producers. I myself am a lifelong 4-H member. I was a Clover Bud through a high school graduate of the 4-H program. Currently, I'm a parent for the last 9 years of 4-Hers and have been a 6-year leader in the county. Our executive council is made up of 4 other parents and adults. So it's me, Jason Dorman, Sandy Klein, who's here today, and then JL Jordy. So 4-Hers, we're more likely to give back to our community, make healthier choices, do STEM activities, and like today, lucky me, be civically active. Next slide. So a little history about 4-H in Stark County. So our records with recorded members goes back to 1934, but I have pictures later on that it obviously predates this. 4-H is a longstanding organization throughout our community. In the 70s, so 50 years ago, we had 460 members and they had about 1,300 projects that they exhibited through this achievement days that you've heard about through previous presentations. 15 years ago, we had 149 members, and we've had about a 50% increase over the past 15 years. And last year at our achievement days alone, we had 224 members participate. And these again would be from 5 to 18-year-olds. And we had about almost 700 projects. Static exhibits for us is anything essentially that is not alive, so it is static, it stays in place. And then we had about 250 animals. Of these, we had about 170 that went to the state fair for static exhibits, and then about 30 or 40 head of livestock. So these would be our show animals. Next slide. So historically, and some of you in the audience might recall additional places that the achievement days have been held. But because there's two types of projects, living and non-living, there's always been two places where the achievement days projects have been displayed. As you can see, quite a variety, and most recently, we are renting the DSU Bijou Activity Center for our static exhibits, and then using the Stark County Outdoor Rodeo Arena for our livestock. Next slide. In preparation for this, I needed to get some statistics about the participants from 50 years ago. So you can see here, this is where I got my information about where it was, and that there were 1,200 projects, but if you can all take a second to read the last line. So 50 years ago, they were having these same conversations. So next slide. Stark County, as a reminder, we are an agricultural county. When we use the word livestock, to us, that is all animals except horses and small animals. So in our county, we have 32,000 head of cattle. As of last year, we had 1,100 sheep and lambs, and I think Dustin probably has most of them, just kidding. We have about almost 700 different family farms and over 700,000 acres of land that is used for farming purposes. Our 4-H exhibitors from our county show beef cattle, sheep, swine, goats, horses, dairy cattle, poultry, rabbits, and then small animals. This would be like pets type animals. So what would be ideal for 4-H? This is from 1927. So what would be ideal for us? We had a few leaders together and we discussed an ideal 4-H outlook would be a permanent dedicated home in Stark County with unrestricted access to host the 4-H achievement days. That's kind of the minimum ideal. And that seems to have been the desire for many, many years so far. Additionally, depending on the facility, we would have an added bonus of the possibility of year-round use to expand and improve youth educational opportunities. So what would a 4-H facility, or when people are talking about the 4-H youth, what do we actually need? Really what we would need is just a 40 by 60 show ring. This is for our, what we again term livestock. This is an example on the right of the Stutzman County Fair. This is their show ring and they have penning areas in the back, but the penning space for the livestock, it must allow, this is very important, must allow for hay, straw, and wood chips. It's very specific how the kids are taught to stall their animals and all of those things. They also need to feed them. Like Dustin said, if we have the animals out there for multiple days, allowing the community to come and look at what most people think of when they think of a county fair, come and look at the animals, they would need to be penned properly. It must be out of direct sunlight. It needs to have durable ties so that our 1,400-pound steers and heifers are able to be stalled safely for the kids to be able to access them. Preferably, it would have high-capacity electrical. Those of you that have been to a livestock show know that we have multiple fans, multiple lights, clippers, blowers, all of these things, and we all use them all at the same time to prepare for a show. So it needs to have high capacity for electrical. It needs to have good airflow. The safety of our animals is obviously our most important thing, and so we need to make sure that there's good airflow because we do host most of our events. Our achievement days specifically, obviously, are in the summer. We also need to have access to water, not just for watering of our animals, but for washing them, preparing them. A lot of the things that we do to fit the animals then need to have water to be able to clean them up and get them ready to show. Additionally, like on the left, this is also from Stutsman County. We need to have a clean static exhibit space. Right now, there is no space except for a building. Right now, like I said, we're using DSU's activity center because it needs to be clean. It needs to be safe. These kids work all year creating their projects. They have sewing projects, photography, foods, all of these, restoring vehicles, all of these different things that they're making. They need to be preserved, kept safe, so that when they're done with the county achievement days, they can use them and they can move them on to further competition if they so desire. Additionally, 4-H has a lot of live presentations or different competitions. Communication arts, there's a fashion review, there's demonstrations, there's communication arts contests. Those all are things that the kids can do to show off their experience, and they can do those to the public. Those could be open type events that could be seen during an achievement days or other time of year. So they need a space to do that. And then additional meeting space. There aren't a lot of places in town that we have, readily available to 4-H. So we do have different clubs throughout the county meeting in different spaces. It would be nice if there would be a more another space for the clubs to use, and that could be like the static exhibit type space. So here's a sample livestock, again, livestock building. This is actually, I think, the Botno County or 4-H fair building. So this is just a sample that we parents drew up really quick, just kind of to show that what we use the space for. So a show ring, like I said earlier, only needs to be about 40 by 60, and that's actually probably for safety too. We don't need a large area for the animals to make sure the kids can keep them safely exhibited. We do need a lot of room for penning the animals and for fitting and preparing them, and then obviously for grandpas and grandmas to come and watch as well. Okay. A sample static building could be just a simple open space, preferably with some flexibility so that we can use it for different things. This is how we would essentially set up a static exhibit building. And I apologize, I'm the one that made this terrible drawing really quick. But we would just have different showcase areas and everything would be movable. So if one year somebody redoes a pickup truck, we can get it in. If the next year our largest thing that we have is a giant pumpkin that someone grew, we can flex with the space for whatever the kids are working on that year. And we never know what's gonna show up until like the day, and then we rearrange everything anyway. So other potential uses. So other things that 4-H does besides the achievement days, currently that we don't have space for, would be our 4-H shooting sports program. Right now we have a waiting list for kids to be able to get into this program because of a lack of facility space. Shooting sports is the largest growing sport and activity, especially in 4-H right now. And we are turning kids away because we do not have the facilities to be able to safely do these projects. Additionally, for the livestock producers whose kids are showing livestock, there would be many potential uses for actual livestock producers to use our area. and partner with 4-H on that, whether it's for shows, demonstrations, different, sales, could be bull sales, things like that, and additional livestock shows. We are one of the only counties that does not have additional shows. Most county fairs have junior point shows, breed shows, things like that within their county fair. So the kids, when they bring in their animals, they get to show them multiple times for multiple judges. And it brings in other producers from other areas, other kids from other counties to show their livestock as well. And this is a thing. Also, we've been asked as producers if we can host, and we cannot host any of these larger breed shows because we do not have facilities in our area. And these could also be year round if you're familiar with the Denver Stock Show or, you know, the winter show in Valley City. These are livestock shows that happen year round. And additional livestock contests, that would be our judging teams. We have judging teams that go to nationals very consistently from our county with our 4-H youth. So having the ability to actually host here would be awesome. We'd also use these types of facilities that are livestock ready for education on showmanship, animal husbandry, clipping techniques, things like that. And then additional trainings for the kids on the animals in general, or getting people more familiar with how do you show your goat or things like that. So to kind of end here, to reverberate what I found when I was preparing for this, from Michael Rose, the extension agent in 1974, we do hope that we can have facilities to house our achievement days.
Presentations, anybody else with 4-H on a comment? We'll move on to the welfare commission.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Gillen. I'm the Vice President of the Fire Commission. Different than some of the previous presenters, we hold our events outside right now. We do see a possibility of multiple other events benefiting from the use of an indoor building out there. Obviously, it's late June, it's early July. We're gonna have our rodeo outside. We're gonna have our demolition derby outside. But as some of you have probably witnessed with us in the last couple of years, seems like whenever we schedule our concert for, it rains, no matter what we do, and we end up in the mud when we're said and done. So that would be one event that there'd be a lot of logistical things on our end that we would have to figure out, but that would be one event that we could see ourselves using an indoor building for. Our needs would mainly revolve around seating. There's concerts, there's gonna be a lot of different ages of people there. We're gonna want a place for them to sit. We're gonna want concession stands available. Of course, we're gonna have beer gardens, all that kind of stuff. Restrooms, we have the outdoor restrooms, but we're gonna add in porta potties, all that kind of stuff, so that will be what we would use it for. The show deal would be another thing that is very, show deal for those of you not familiar, it is a youth rodeo for kids starting anywhere from 2 to 15, I believe. County Rodeo helps us put that on every summer. That would be a very flexible event that if we looked at the weather, we could move that inside and we could benefit from the use of the building. So, long story short, very supportive of the potential for a building out there. We can see the uses for us. Would it be as big of a use as some of the other people that you've heard from this morning, such as 4-H and the Fair Board? Probably not as much useful as them. I think it's more important for them and 4-H special, as we talked about having this true county fair. Every year we're right into the days where we're trying to schedule everything with the 4-H and work with them to make their event successful, make our event successful. It would be nice. We have a lot of people every year that think that when they come to Rough Rider Days, that it is a true fair. And we have to explain to them that our rodeo happens that night. It's not a true fair event where you can go around and look at the static displays and stuff like that. And a lot of people not from around here don't understand that because that's what they're familiar with. So I think this building would help us move forward with that. It will help us present a true Rough Rider Days Fair and Expo to our community. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your presentation. Anything else from the operator? Nothing to the park board and comments from the park board here.
You want me to get up there?
You want me there?
Commissioner Fran,
Amy?
Commissioner Franchuk, I think for Zoom, it'd probably be, the closer she can get to that meeting, all it might be better for the Zoom people.
All right. A lot of what I think needed to be said has been said already. My name is Courtney Prestis, by the way, if anybody doesn't know me. I'm a business owner in town. I'm also the, I guess, de facto speaker for the park board. There's 2 of us that are on the park board that aren't also county commissioners. I'm the president of the park board. Mainly, I want to talk about really briefly the ripple effect of what this building means for this town. As I said, I'm a small business owner. I don't know if anybody knows, but there's a bit of an issue going on with attracting young people to work. Attracting young people to the western side of the state and attracting young people to our town. I have a big problem with getting people to come work here, and I know it's not specific to my industry. I know the healthcare industry deals with it too. Quality of life is a huge thing for us. It's a huge thing for young people. It's a huge thing for the Gen X people to come to town. And having a facility like this enhances quality of life in our county. It enhances quality of life in our town. And it's not just rodeo specific people. It's not just livestock specific people. If we did want to talk about just livestock or rodeo specific people, I have 5 attorneys in my office and 2 of us are barrel racers. 2 of us grew up through 4-H, which can't say enough good things about that program. But it's not just the people in this room who are going to the event, competing in the event. It's the people that come watch those events, have nothing to do with horses, have nothing to do with cows, have nothing to do with archery. I'm also a mom. I can tell you on the 9th Saturday in January, when it's freezing and my kids are inside again for the millionth time, if there's an archery contest going on, I've never shot archery in my life. My kids are going to archery. We're gonna go watch archery that day because we're getting out of the house. So for me, I'm filling up gas. I live here, but somebody who's from out of town, they might come watch, do the same thing. They might fill up gas on the way out of town, as Dustin mentioned earlier. They might stop and have dinner. We're investing in the economy of our community. We're investing in our young people and building the quality of life in our community. I don't want the growth of our town to be dependent on the oil industry. I love the oil industry, but I don't want us to be dependent on that. And something like this enhances everything for everyone. It's something that we can rely on. And I'm in support of it, and I hope you are as well.
Thank you, Courtney, for your comments. Next, anybody from the commission, start from the commission, any comments? No? This is something that I'm in my 8th year on the commission, and it's something that's been brought up numerous times on there, and probably time before with something on there, but next. What's that? Just, I guess they're going to say that it's been something that's been on and going for the 8 years that I've been on, I guess, and it's something like we've been able to needed in this community. But it's on next, we're gonna open up the public information. Anybody have any comments or want to step forward and have any comments on this or any questions or anything is brought, somebody's brought up, there any questions that need answered? Tell us, thank you, forward, please.
So I'm Brad Hardigan. We run the speedway here in town, and we actually just got done hosting an event up in Watford City at their indoor facility. We brought in roughly 1,000 people to Watford City, McKenzie County. 90% of those were not locals. I can promise you that. 5 different states, Canadian province. We had a lot of people there. A facility like this, I mean, in my opinion, I saw Lisa's drawing up there. don't build that. Raise taxes, whatever burn me at the stake if you want. Build something that everybody's proud of. You can't convince me to come host an event there in that building compared to what's up there. That's just plain and simple. The building they built is beautiful. You gotta build something that everybody's gonna be proud of here. That's literally all I got.
Anybody else have any comments? Just please your name, do it, come up with the record.
I'm Katie Handy, and I was asked by one of the commissioners to come out and kind of talk about my experience with these facilities. For some of you, I don't know, some of you I recognize, and some, I'm sure Tom Nelson was hoping you would never see me again after college. But, and then there's some I haven't seen in a really, really long time, and one of those people is Kurt Kraling, and just point to show what 4-H means to people. Kurt was actually my county extension agent and then also our 4-H livestock judging coach. And as a 4th grader, he taught me the foundation of livestock judging, in which I was horrible. But it's also, it goes twofold because that foundation also allowed me to have a very successful career within the fair industry. Just a little bit about me and for those that I've never met, because I've recently just moved back to North Dakota about 2 years ago. And that is after I've had a very successful career in the fair industry. For about 13 years, I had worked with fair management and also with design facilities. And a majority of that time was spent in Rapid City, South Dakota, where I was a manager at the Black Hills Stock Show, Central Cities Fair. And if you're unfamiliar with those two events, the stock show brings in about 300,000 people into the community of Rapid City. A lot of those people come through from a 14 different state regions. So it's a huge economic impact. And I think it, when I did the study, it was about a $24 million economic impact to that community. And it's a 10-day event, brings in a lot of people, but in addition to that, we were able to grow that event to have an additional horse events for another 10 days. And so it was 20 full days of horse events and 20 full days of bringing people into town. Along with that, we had a 10-day fair, and I'm going to tell you, it brought all the fun fair people into town. I'm going to tell you that a fair and a stock show would look completely different on the guest list, and especially in Rapid City. With that, we did livestock shows, we did, static exhibits, horse shows, concerts, the whole shebang. In between that time, between January to August or August to January, however you want to look at it, we were very fortunate that we had a county commission that invested in our facility and they created an event center for us to operate. But it didn't come without a lot of hard work and a lot of try. And I say that because lots of times when we look at these facilities and stuff, we automatically think if we build it, they will come. And lots of times we forget about the expense that it takes to operate that facility, not just for the first 5 years, but also for the future of that facility for 20 years, or even in that article from 1974 of the 4-H. How are we going to sustain a facility in 20 years? Along with this, and one thing that was very odd about the Central States Fair in those facilities, we were actually a nonprofit organization. We are 501c5, in which the county only invested in that facility. They wanted to create the infrastructure of that facility, and it was our responsibility to make sure that all the expenses were paid for at the end of the day. And that did require us to pay for the staffing, the salaries, the expenses, the tractors, the drags, the dirt in the arena, and all those additional things. And lastly, we were able to prove that we were good stewards of the facility, because there was a time that we were about $400,000 into debt. And it pretty much through bad management. And it was Ron Jeffries that came in, and it took him 4 years to start swinging a profit. I only bring that up because rarely do these facilities ever make money. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm not saying yes or no or anything like that, but I mean, I think it's important that people, I mean, especially, as county commissioner, that you need to understand what the threshold is of, you know, what you're willing to invest in these facilities. Along with that, I also was a general manager at the Curry County, Event Center and Fairgrounds in Clovis, New Mexico. And it was managed completely different. And we are managed by a third-party venue management company. And I reported to the county manager, the county commission, and also, a corporation in Philadelphia. And I only bring that up because, you know, I think as county commissioners and even as fair board, you know, there's always going to be a rift, or, you know, there's going to be a misunderstanding, or, and because on the Facebook group, there's a statement on the Facebook group that said some of the county commissioners are against this project. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that at the end of the day, I think you guys are just looking for the clear-cut information to make an informed decision about which way to go forward. I'm not here, like I said, I'm here to share information. I was asked to share information based on my experience as to what to expect. And it's my goal not to give you something, it's my goal not to tell you what to think, but I'm hoping to give you information to think about. Because my career in the fair industry, one of the things that I learned is we're an industry that shares information. And because at the end of the day, we recognize that the learning curve can be very costly to fairgrounds. And when, and it's not only costly to the fairgrounds, it's costly to the county, it's costly to the taxpayers. And that's why we try to share information, where we can. And there's been many people before me that have did the same. So when you look at just facilities like this, and like I said, you know, obviously my fair days are over. I'm still involved with different facilities, different events throughout the country, you know, helping out wherever I can and stuff. And that's why I was asked to come out here today. When you look at different facilities, you know, there's three things that you just really need to understand on how they work. Because fairgrounds are all operated in two different ways. And I just gave you two examples of a nonprofit organization, of a third-party venue management organization. But a majority of them are ran by volunteers, and or a combination of a few county employees and volunteers together. And the reason why I bring that up is because you need to evaluate the strength of your volunteer base to make this possible. You know, it's possible enrollment, and they have a facility. I know that they're hiring somebody for a full-time position to manage that facility, but it's possible because they have a very, very strong volunteer base. And one of the things is just look at Dickinson and look at your population. You have, you know, sure, right now it's, you know, it's a very exciting time and stuff, but look at that base in the future and stuff, and to make sure that it can sustain. I'm not saying it can't, but one of the things that I've recognized is that COVID played a drastic role on people volunteering. And even if you look at the nonprofits in Dickinson, there's 224 different nonprofits just in Dickinson. And all those nonprofits are also looking for volunteers. And there's a lot of different youth activities that weren't there in the past that they are now. And so for county commissioners, you know, one of the things there was some information shared with me regarding the expenses and the income. And just to give you a clear picture, because like I said, you know, rarely do these facilities make money. And, but it's not the intent to make money. Because I believe, on your Stark County goals, vision, mission, you know, at the end of the day, and like any other fairground in the country, the intent is to create a quality of life within that county. And so it's your duty to figure out at what tolerance is that quality of life, to be able to do it. Because there's always great opportunities. And, you know, we always talk about the economic impact that you can bring people into town here. And that's true. But if you just look at just Stark County right now, you got 33,000 people in the county. I have to apologize. I live in Bismarck. That's why I was late too. But there's 33,000 people in Stark County, 500 people actually on horses and stuff. So a lot of people in the room probably heard the number 500 of horse owners, but I'm probably going to guess as county commissioners who heard 1.5% or, of people don't, or own homes. So that means that, at any given time from now until 20 years from now, you're going to get at least, 32,500 phone calls regarding this facility. And that's just the nature of the beast, people will support facilities like this as long as they have the right information. So if you're looking at doing a bid, or if you're looking at, you know, the future of all this stuff, your public's going to support it as long as they have the right information. Or they get a little mad is when you have a bid for $5 billion for a project, and the project ends up costing $10 million, or, you know, and we get so excited about creating that building that we fail to look at what the operating cost is, or we don't have a realistic expectation of that operating cost. I pulled some of the numbers that, I'm sorry, my mouth's getting really dry, but I pulled some of the numbers, based on some of my past experience, on a budget standpoint of just even being at Stark or at Curry County Event Center. And just, based on some of the information that was shared with me. And so I don't know if you want to jot this down or anything, or however you want to do it, but your salaries, oh, thank you, Kurt. Just a general,
What facility are you talking about?
and this is, I actually took, some of the expenses that were shared with me regarding this project, but then also I added in some other expenses that you can estimate, based on, the facility I worked with in, New Mexico. Obviously the weather would be a lot different down there. In which I knew when I was driving over here this morning, it was very little gnarly. So when you're looking at just expenses, you know, I know that there was some salaries that were outlined and stuff, but if you look at salaries, 92,000, 8,500 for part-time wages. And with that, you also need to make sure that your employee benefits are involved in that too, because it's still allocated to this area, which can attribute to about $15,000 or $15,000. With a new facility, you're going to have to advertise it, advertise the opportunities to rent it. So you're looking at about $5,000 a year there. Your automobile expenses are going to be about $4,450. Building supplies, and that's going to be anything from your toilet paper, you know, anything that you have to have within that facility to make it operational. Well, you're looking at about $28,000. Cleaning and janitorial, because of the fact that you have a stand building and you have a front end, you know, area in which you're looking at renting and requiring it to be clean, is going to be about $8,000 a year. Equipment maintenance agreements, and those are like your bobcats, your tractors, anything that you're doing that. I know there's a partnership within the highway department right now, but at the end of the day, you know, at one time there won't be that, you know. And you're looking at that agreement, equipment. You're looking about $10,000 a year, oil changes and everything like that. Along with that, you have your insurance, your general insurance, and your workman's comp insurance, and those come in at $7,000 or $4,000 there. Software IT maintenance, with any of these new facilities, they do require a higher level of Wi-Fi, just in order for producers to communicate with in front office, back office, and a lot of different technology that you probably didn't have way back when. Or when DSU's rodeo team, Allison was coaching there. And you're looking at $11,900 there. Along with that, your data processing credit card fees are going to go up to about $2,500. Landscaping of the grounds, $500. License and permits, anything like that, will be attributed to that, about $500. Printing, any signage or anything that you're going to do is about $1,000. And repairs and maintenance is going to be about $50,000 a year. And just because it's new doesn't mean it's going to stay new for long. It doesn't, and just because you have a work trailer doesn't mean you know how to back up. And that's $50,000. Obviously, there's going to be some travel recruitment and stuff like that, learning on that. But the biggest thing is understanding your utilities of this. And a lot of that is going to be dictated based on the, how you determine your heat and electricity or what you're going to wire it for and stuff like that. You know, I know down in Rapid City, they estimate about $6,000 a month within their, event center. And down in Clovis, New Mexico, it actually ran a little bit higher than that. But at the end of the day, just be, you know, just be a little bit conservative. If you budgeted about 4,300, you're going to get $52,000 there. And then waste removal as well, because, you know, as we talked about the chips on the 4-H field, on the 4-H grounds and stuff was all moved out. So yeah, your total cost to operate a facility like that is going to be about $306,000. But there's also opportunity for income though too and stuff. And one of the things is, and I know Lisa, you went back and forth, and I know that you went back and forth with the drawing table and everything. And one of those, and it's hard to figure out exactly what the income opportunities are when you don't know what kind of a facility you actually have. And I know that Lisa did some things, but what I'm going to tell you is lots of times we can understand, until you know the true intent of your facility, you don't know exactly what the income opportunities are. And, you know, I know that the donations and signage within that. There's also writing passes. That was the second highest number. And I only bring those up because, you know, I know a lot of people, were talking about, you know, that this is just not going to be a riding facility and stuff, and it's going to be a multi-purpose facility and stuff. But you can tell the intent of a facility based on what the income, what your highest income is. Because that's where you're going to focus at. And so when you look at, you know, you have your riding passes, at $1,000, equine events, being able to rent those events. The one thing you have to be realistic with this, you know, just because you build it doesn't mean everyone's going to flock in. With equine events, typically horse events and stuff, typically, it takes a while for them to get established. But the good thing is once you book them in, you book them in for a 3-year period. So, you know, there's also dog shows, birthday parties, reservations, and all those things. So, there's definitely, you know, with those income and off that, a realistic expectation of expenses, you're looking at, possibly subsidizing it for about $100,000 a year. And is that, and going back to a quality of life issue, you know, at $100,000 a year, you know, that's really good, you know. So however you guys choose to go forward with it, but I just think it's so important to have realistic expectations when you're dealing with facilities like this, because I have seen them go sideways. And when they go sideways, it impacts not only the facility, it impacts the county. And, you know, renters don't want to come in and rent it at the end of the day. You know, and it's just a really bad perception and stuff. And especially when this is going to be volunteer based. It's a bad perception on volunteers and people that are putting in the hard work to make this possible. So I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Anybody have any questions?
So comments, so where do you got your expenses from again?
Where I pulled my expenses from past budgets that I did.
On your South Dakota facilities?
South Dakota and New Mexico and everything.
Okay. So that was like the much bigger facilities and stuff.
Not really. Rapid City was about 110,000 square foot facility, and New Mexico was actually about an 80,000 square foot facility. And the difference was basically just on the community or the county commitment to operate those facilities. So, and to tell you the truth, like in New Mexico, you guys are pretty much puppy dogs for county commissioners. I had a county commissioner that used to be a special investigator within the Air Force and security forces. So you can guarantee that he figured out how to shut off the lights because he knew every expense. So
Anybody have any questions? Thanks for your comments and your experiences with sharing with us and traveling with.
And one last thing, I'm very pro Dickinson. And Dickinson has been a valuable, I went to college here for a couple of years, until they kicked me out. And then, but Dickinson was a place that we did all our shopping and you know, it's a place that you do all your shopping when you came to town, and it was a big trip, for us. Cause I was able to grow up in that great county, Slope County, where, there wasn't a lot of jeans that were sold there, so. But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
I'm probably the tallest person that's spoken today. Do I need to point this up? Can you guys hear me okay? All right, good morning. My name is Clint Sickler. I am a 4-H parent. I'm also in a little weird spot because I'm a Dunn County resident that works in Dickinson. My kids attend school in Dickinson. Grew up on my grandfather's homestead just across the Dunn County line, and have came through the school system, went to Trinity, went to DSU. I'm a Dickinson boy at heart. Have a little weird, interesting background through all of this. So my grandfather is Albert Sickler. Some of you may know him. There's a plaque with his picture on it hanging in the DSU Ag department. Back in the late 70s, early 1980s, my grandfather was one of the advocates that went to the legislature to try to get funding allocated for an indoor multi-purpose arena. Well, if you look over in that direction, you can see the giant, pretty yellow building that stands as homage to that. Over the last 50 years, as Bridget mentioned in her presentation, there's always been talk of a multi-purpose complex. And it seems the biggest stumbling block that we always run into, as soon as you say multi-purpose, 47 different groups flock to it to try to get their input and figure out what that purpose is going to be. And something that Katie said as she was giving her presentation, Katie and I have a long history back and forth. My introduction to her was actually livestock judging against her with Kurt Freilich as the coach. And I too remember her from college, but her recollection is probably a little bit more blurry than mine is. But she made the statement that you can tell the purpose of a facility based off of the revenue allocations. As we look at the drawings of this facility, the thing that sticks to me is it's obviously a very equine heavy, equine focused facility. We gave the presentation from 4-H, or rather Bridget did, of needing a multi-purpose 4-H facility. One of the things that as a parent and growing up in the livestock industry, and now when I say livestock, I'm speaking specifically beef cattle. We've traveled thousands of miles when I was growing up, competing competitively on a national and international level. We actually go into Canada and compete in registered livestock shows as well. We've been very successful. Have plenty of national championship banners that we hang. And as I get older now, I'm seeing my kids are going through this system and they're starting to compete. They're traveling way too many miles. Think of it as like a hockey parent with a horse trailer. And anyone that's doing the competitive rodeo events knows exactly what we're talking about. You put a lot of miles on to use livestock to raise your kids. We've been approached to host national level events in Dickinson. The problem we have is our nearest facility is 100 miles away. And that's either Watford City or Bowman. And the problem with an arena like this, and what's happened with the DSU indoor arena, the proposed reconstruction of that arena, is when you put those rough stock pens and that arena fitting inside of the building, it takes off a lot of valuable real estate that you can use for other events. We need to have bedding. We need to have straw, wood chips. We need to be able to feed our livestock inside the building. We've been told that's part of the reason the West River Livestock Show is no more, is because the arena, the restrictions got to a point where it was difficult to police the competitors that were there. When you have people that are pulling $25,000 to $30,000 animals into a building, and then you tell them that you can't feed them, it doesn't go over really well. You know, the other issue that we ran into with the DSU arena, Achievement Days happens first week in July. It's like 103 degrees outside, and that arena doesn't breathe, it doesn't cool, it gets ridiculously hot in there. I see plans in this building for heating it, but there's been no discussion about cooling it. If it's gonna be another hot box in the summer, I don't know if we've really fixed any problems that come along with this. The other issue that when you have that arena inside of there, normally if they're set up for any equine events, there's 12 to 18 inches of special dirt. If you've ever tried walking across that, it gets a little difficult, especially with the 2-foot tall goat or a 1,400-pound steer. It's like walking in cement. You know, but going back to Katie's quote, if you can tell the purpose, when we look at the overall list of activities that were up there, there were 11 equine specific under the livestock section and 1 that was not equine. When you come back to our presentation, I think the question that the commission needs to ask itself is, are we looking for a short-term fix or a long-term fix? I don't know if this is the real long-term answer. Short-term wise, there could be potential to turn around and build 2 facilities. When I say 2 facilities, I look at the presentation 4-H did is having an outdoor covered arena in a static building. That would fit our needs. That would be fantastic. And it would also be flexible enough to allow for a lot of these other activities to happen. Yeah, with that, I guess I'm open for questions, or if I missed anything, Bridget, that you think I should add on?
No, just kind of looking at it, we for 4-H don't need a huge multiplex building. We could use a covered pavilion that we can shelter our animals and our children, and a static exhibit type building that would be an open multi-purpose room essentially that could be available for those static exhibits. And looking for a short-term permanent fix essentially to our potentially 100-year problem of not having a home for 4-H. When you think of a county fair, or you look at any movie or any TV show or any other place, there are livestock pens where you can go and pet the goat and those types of things. And those are 4-H kids' animals. So having a spot for that purpose would be awesome and might be more fiscally palatable and still have a lot of those multi-purpose flexibility things, because it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It can be a small thing and really, really make a huge impact. Because yes, my 6-year-old, that was his picture with his 1,400-pound heifer named Tiny, adequately named.
That was my nickname in high school too.
Walking through a 18-inch sand rodeo arena is dangerous.
I think the big takeaway is when you go through the list of facilities that have hosted achievement days over the last 100 years, we've always been a tag along. And we're just asking maybe to have more recognition, to have a facility that works for the 4-H events. And rather than having us push back into a corner, put a little bit more spotlight on the program and a more dedicated facility to our needs as well. Thank you.
Keep going. Anybody else have any input, questions?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having this meeting and inviting the general public here today to voice our opinions as well, because ultimately we are the taxpayers and we are the people that are going to utilize this building. My name is Rochelle Weiler. I have lived in the Dickinson community for 22 years. I grew up in a small town in Montana where we had an exceptionally strong 4-H program and equestrian program and rodeo program. And our community brought all of those and we worked on the same fairgrounds together. With unity. I grew up showing horses and pigs in the 4-H group. I was a member of FFA. And now I have a barrel racing daughter.
I think it is very possible for these groups to all work together and seamlessly get along and enjoy the volunteerism that are the organizations. On a monthly basis, in the last year, I have loaded up my horses, my goats, my 2 dogs, and my 4 kids. And we go on a monthly basis to Bowman to ride our horses for the weekend. Not only is it taking my whole family and relocating us down there for that weekend, but we go down there for our 2 to 3 hours that we can lease that arena, which we're fighting to lease the arena. It is booked out months in advance. And we go down there for 2 hours on a Saturday night. If we can get into the arena at 9 o'clock at night, we'll ride until 11 with my 4 kids, my 2 dogs, and our goats. And we ride till 11 o'clock. And then we all cram into my living quarter horse trailer, which we're super blessed to have, but not everybody does. We cram into my horse trailer and we sleep in the horse trailer to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and ride the next morning. For another 2 hours, we can ride the next morning. And then we come all the way back to Dickinson, where we live, where we're proud to call our home. In that time, we've fueled in Bowman. We've eaten in Bowman. We've gone to the local grocery store in Bowman, and they have a fantastic park area for kids, and they have a gym for the parents who want to lift weights or exercise or get some cardio. We have invested in the community of Bowman while we live in Dickinson. Dickinson has the ability to have a facility like this and make it work, because we go 80 miles one direction to do it on a monthly basis. I think everybody is very dedicated to what their belief is and what they want, but I really do feel like we can pull together as a community. When we do barrel racing events, we rely on the people that are putting that event on to bring their own volunteers in and do it. We bring our own barrel setters in, we bring our own gate man, we bring our own office people. The 4-H community does the same, because that is the epicenter of your organization, is to volunteer. The go-kart community, you do the same thing. The go-kart events are phenomenal, but you rely on each other and the parents and the kids to do it. That is the same with all the other events that you bring in. I think it's a great idea, and for the health and the growth of our community, I think a building where we can have an event center where it be used by motorcycle enthusiasts, car enthusiasts, and God help us, equestrians. We can all do it. We can do it. And it would be a great way to start for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I got a couple, that came to me through text and phone calls. So one of them, I'll read to you. Hello, Bernie Marsh. My name is Bobby Kubas, resident of Stark County, and I wanted to leave a comment on you for the proposed building of the north the county fairgrounds. I'm 100% against it at this point, and the reasons are as follows. One is this is going to be just another tax burden on the residents, which we don't plan on raising any taxes for, but we can never tell. 2, we can't even pay for what we already have, which I think we're doing a pretty good job of paying for it. There's hardly any events, which we already showed that we have events all booked up for next summer. And then utilize the rodeo ground, and then that make it start talking about something, but until then, I'm totally against it, and raising taxes are not a good idea. So that's from Mr. Kubas. Kurt Hochka commented, and he says, you know what? Amazing that we can have a facility that we could probably use year round, which I mean, that's, I think everybody's opinion here. My opinion is the city spent $5 million on a park that's used 3 or 4 months out of the year, and who knows how many weekends. It's, I think it's pretty limited, where I think this facility, if we do for $5 million, can be used year round.
Any other comments? Any questions? Any of the commissioners have any comments? Paul? Neil, do you have anything?
Just quickly, the intent of this meeting, when I made the motion, was to be a listening meeting, and I personally would love to thank all the people who participated. It brought a number of new perspectives to the conversation. And so I thank everybody who came. I thank everybody for taking time out of their day. And I think this is just one step of many that we need to do to move forward and get something that works for all, and it still addresses the concerns of the taxpayers. So thanks. That's all I need to say.
Yes. Something to say?
Sure, I could.
Just step up. Steve, name for the record.
Megan Dollinger. I show dogs all over the country, and I come from the Oregon coast where I grew up in 4-H. 4-H was everything, but like, for showing horse, it was mainly horses. There's so much more than besides just barrel racing and Western events that could be held too. Right now, we have an English club in Western North Dakota that the majority of what they do, we travel to Baker, Montana to do almost anything, to hold clinics, to get together to ride. And most of us are focused out of Kildare, Watford, Williston, and Dickinson, but we all go to Baker to ride because they're the easiest to work with an indoor arena. It just, if you did a facility, there could be so much more than just what's normally been held in Western North Dakota. I look at some of the other arenas, like in White Earth has a lot planned all the time. The White Earth Arena, I should say. But that's and even dog competitions, if you had facilities that could accommodate them, there are clubs around that would consider doing it here too.
I know you had mentioned you visited once about the,
Pardon?
you had mentioned once we visited about the dog competitions and you have to drive, we would go to Minnesota for competitions as well.
Well, there's a Bismarck Kennel Club. We do hold a show in Bismarck, but that's a confirmation show. We rent Pacific Center for it. Right now, they want to do lure coursing events. And lure coursing events, of course, they have to have a certain length to be able to run and all that. And we're having a really hard time finding any place from Bismarck this direction to even hold something like that. So it's kind of put a stop on it for now. But in traveling, I travel to Minneapolis and Denver a lot to show dogs.
Anybody else?
My name is David Dickinson. Today I have something that I'm very concerned about. I feel that we have to have a priority in our list of events, the things that we want to see Dickinson come into. And my main objective is that this mic is not too high. There you go. That's pretty close to it. My main objective is that we're in a huge change right now. Did anybody know the temperature yesterday was 50 above? Anybody? Then last night it got down to 8 above. These are all signs of a grand solar weather change, minimum. Lewis and Clark, when they came in, settled down in our territory, the first thing that they were greeted with was a hailstorm. The hails were as big as a man's fist. And that's how they were greeted into North Dakota. When Napoleon went up, he was in, that was the Dalton minimum. They were descending into a lower temperature, 1806. 1812, Napoleon decided to go to Moscow to invade it. He got met by an ice storm in June or July, and then, he had problems. He came up with 500,000 people going up into Moscow. Coming back into France, he only came back with 40,000 because of all of the.
Mr. Bedoya, I did, sorry to interrupt you, but do you have some comments about what we're here to discuss today?
Okay, yeah. Is that what?
Do you have some comments about what we're here to discuss about?
Yeah. Okay, my main comment, I guess I'm trying to make is that we have to have a priority in our spending. We're going through a huge global change and nobody is not talking about it. And we really need to get serious about our priorities and put all our priorities. I know this is a great priority to have, but we need to get understand what we're coming into in these next 3, 4, 5 years. It's very alarming. And I think that's the main response I usually get. I've been here at the county commission twice already, so you guys know what's going on. And there's no action taking place. That has to be the #1 priority, not only for this county, but our state. If we lose our grids, we're down, we're finished. And we need to have that as a priority. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anybody else have any comments?
Sorry.
Way down.
Okay.
I'll stop. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm not a public speaker. You can find that out real quick, but I'll be brief. It's one perspective that nobody, I don't believe, has touched on. Is that, yes, we are an agricultural community, but we are also an oil community. And I have, through family and stuff like that, I've got an insight into something that I think affects what we're speaking of in this facility. Is that there are a lot of oil companies and a lot of service companies. And there's probably a couple people from every single company that has come up here from all over the country. And they work for so many days and then they go back to where their home is and their families and kids. And the families do not want to move up here because there's nothing for them. And I think a facility like this would give them a reason to come up and be a permanent member of our community so that we would grow, we'd have more everything. Now, stuff, more tax revenues, everything. And I think it's important stuff to consider that there's a lot of people that would move up here if there was something.
You just state your name for record too. And you said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn Hastings.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? The commission or the party board or anyone else with there? Then I'd always like to hear somebody who start county money, we're talking about spending here, and I guess I would like to come to probably get there for against something like this too.
Hi, I'm Carla Arthot. I don't even need the mic, but I saw the last park board meeting. And it just the one thing that kind of alarmed me a little bit is there was some comments about, that if the community is really serious about this, that, the fair board, if they were serious about this, that they should campaign to make money for this. And I was kind of shocked on that. I mean, we can make this work. There was also comments made here today about, does Dickinson have the right volunteers or enough volunteers to make this work? Dickinson has a ton of volunteers. They can make this work. I mean, there's huge dedication. I don't think you can. Everybody can speak their opinion, but I don't think you can take money from, or you can take a budget from New Mexico or Philadelphia to know how this arena is going to be built and run. I think Lisa, since I was a commissioner, Lisa's done a tremendous job bringing in what it's gonna cost, or the overhead. And I think that this thing could sustain itself once it's built. And there's going to be plenty of people out there that will volunteer, that will donate money. But the fact that this building could not be sustainable, that is just not correct here. I mean, the little town of Bowman, they can make it work. And I just think this would be great benefit for Stark County, not just for equine. I mean, for 4-H, you can pack the ground. You can bring something into a facility like this, pack the ground, and there would be no problem for animals on it. And then in fact, when you pack the ground, it's easier to remove the straw, remove the wood chips. I just think that needs to be built.
Thanks for your comment. Anyone else? You know, so any other comment? Not, I guess, the last thing on our agenda is the funding and viability of this discussion. I guess anybody have anything to propose with?
Suppose it comes back down to us commissioners to bring it back to our next meeting and take it from there, I guess. I don't know where the next step would be.
I guess there's that option, I guess, or you put it to the vote of the people too, and the primary coming up in June too, and if some people want to do or not, and I guess.
That's just advisory though. That would just be an advisory vote. So it wouldn't be binding.
Give us some idea what the majority of the people want, what's going on. But
I think this will work. I'm Sandra Koontz, I'm an attorney in town. I've been here a decade ago, I've been here 2 decades ago, having this very discussion between all boards. Bernie, you know, you were there with me. Is this doable? Yes. I was the one who drafted the last MOU between DSU, the Park Board, the Fair Association. The key here, gentlemen, is everybody's got to be on board. It can't be, this is my little part and my little part and my little part and expect it to be successful. You simply cannot. That is essentially the failure of the last MOU, is because the parties involved could not come together on who's first. Who gets the priority? Is it my time? Is it your time? Well, I'm not putting my money down if I'm not first. And ultimately, you know, some of that is politics, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's also the driving factor on whether you're going to have success with this facility. It cannot be built too small. That also is going to be a sign of failure, because then you're not going to have all of our volunteers and all of our partners in play. We have to work together. We can't have, and no disrespect, but we can't afford a college arena and a 4-H livestock arena and a 4-H equine facility, and we can't afford 6 of them. But we can afford a facility that is designed well, that is multi-purpose. It has to be big enough to look out for the gentleman who wants to bring the speedway in play. We have to think not right now in the next 5 years. We've been talking about this since 1974. I have a drive from my friend Arnie Binnick, who said, don't lose this. This is the history of where we've been. This is the history of promises between board and board and board, that, yep, we're all on board. We're gonna sign the docs, we're gonna spend the time, we're gonna spend the money to do studies, we're gonna spend the money to look into this. And everybody just sheepishly left. We're gonna fail again if we don't come together. I need you and your volunteers as much as I need you and your volunteers and everybody else who stepped forward to say, we want this to happen. I'm willing to put my time, my money, my finances into this. It doesn't count if we don't come together, because individually we are going to fail. We are a community that can do this. We've seen them smaller doing this, but we need to think bigger. We are not a Stark County, 4-H club. We are a Stark Billings County 4-H club. How many Billings County residents are here? Excuse me. We're thinking too small. We need to look to everybody. If this is gonna be a successful entity, it has to be multi-county. And it has to be multifaceted. Because time is limited. Money is limited. Change is coming. The only way we're going to be successful is we need good leaders who are going to haze all of these parties into the same facility. And you're going to insist it designed well enough and large enough to accommodate each part. Can it be done? We see it all over the country. Why can't we do it here? It comes down to our leaders and our leaders standing on the line saying, after this many years of talking about it, time for action. That's where we're at. I'm on board. I'm on board with my time, my talents, my connections. I've been on board for years. Arnie Binnick died on board with this project for as long as he was a part of every board around here and his zip drive. I have binders of information if you want the whole history and the money and the facilities and the numbers. How long are we going to keep looking at it before we do something? Leadership is the key here. And if we're not on board to go there and we're not on board to go together, then we're going to keep meeting and we're going to keep talking about it. And time's going to go on, and 50 more years away, we're going to go, God, we should do that. What, talk about it or do something? So that's what I'm here to ask you, is are you going to haze all of our wonderful talents and people and money and funds into one project? We're going to keep promising and sprinkling it around, and that continues to fail and fail and fail, because that's what we've seen. We don't have to keep looking at it. We don't have to keep looking at the same numbers, adjusted for inflation and everything else, to come to the same conclusion after 1974, do the math. That's the key there. Thank you.
I guess probably all of you know me. I've been with the county for 20 years. I can remember back probably in 2005 or 6 over at the old DSU arena. I've worked the ground for these people for almost 20 years. I've given my heart and my soul. So if I'm passionate about this goddamn building, you guys need to get on board too. I'll be here till I die and I'll work that goddamn ground every time. And you know, you may not like it, Paul, you're frowning at me, but that's my passion for this year, and you guys need to get on board with it too. And everyone in this room knows who I am and how hard I've worked. Every day, every time there's been something at the fairground, I've been every weekend donating my time. I love it there, and I think we need this building, and it's about time the board supports it. Without your support, we're not gonna get support from nobody else, so that's all I got to say, and I really hope that you guys take this very sincere. We got a great group of people here today, share their thoughts, and take them home with you and really think about what we need to do for Stark County. Thank you.
Benny Paulson, I don't have any comments. They've been speaking for themselves. Question though, what's holding this up? What do you guys need? Could you guys talk about what specifically the community needs to do to provide what needs to be done to get this moving forward, whether that's different plans or concerns? I'd like maybe, because everybody's gonna go and talk now after this and speculate. What do you guys need? What can the community do to help make this decision?
Okay. I guess for me to decide, I guess all this meeting was to decide what kind of facility we want. We want to spend the money to build the building, or just get by with a small building. I mean, that's my concern, I guess. And I'm out here for what's best for the Stark County, and I guess I wanted to input out from the public and see what they want. This is my concern. I'm not going to prove something and then the majority of people don't want something. You know, they want where do you want to be? What kind of money do you want to spend on it? Where do you even want to? My decision, here's, I think, our next commission, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna move forward or kill the value of what it is. That could be something. You else have any other comments before we close? Thank you all for coming and spending your time this morning with us and giving us input here, all this input here, I appreciate that very much. Anybody else have any comments or commission? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for coming up to the.
No, my fingers are burning.